There's an ancient Japanese art form that takes broken pottery and repairs it with gold, making it more valuable than it was before it shattered. And today, you're going to discover how this same principle can transform your life after failure, loss, and devastation. You probably know someone who went through something so crushing that it should have destroyed them. A business that collapsed, a relationship that ended in betrayal, a dream that died right in front of their eyes. Maybe that person is you. But here's what most people don't understand. The Japanese don't throw away broken pottery. They collect every single piece, no matter how small, and they repair it with lacquer mixed with gold, silver, or platinum. The cracks become golden seams. The pottery doesn't just survive, it becomes a masterpiece. This philosophy is called Kintsugi, and it doesn't teach you how to avoid being broken. It teaches you that being broken is where your true value begins. When you understand this, when you truly internalize this truth, you stop running from your past and start building with it. And that changes everything. Before we continue, if you're here because you're struggling right now, because something in your life has shattered, I want you to know something. You're exactly where you need to be. Hit that like button, subscribe, and drop a comment telling me what you're rebuilding. Let's begin. Her name was Elena. She was 32 years old, and 3 years ago she had everything she'd worked for. A thriving marketing agency, 20 employees, six-figure income. She was the success story everyone pointed to. Look at Elena, she made it. But success is fragile, and sometimes it shatters in a single day. It started with one client leaving, a miscommunication, a campaign that didn't perform. Then another client left, then 3 more. Within 8 months, her entire client base was gone. Employees had to be let go. The office lease couldn't be paid. Her business partner blamed her publicly and cut ties. The online reviews were brutal, unprofessional, overpromised and underdelivered. Don't waste your money. Elena's reputation, the thing she'd built for 7 years, was destroyed. And the worst part? She believed every word. She internalized every criticism, every failure, every mistake. She stopped going out. She stopped answering calls. She spent entire days in bed staring at the ceiling, replaying every decision that led to this moment. Her savings ran out. She had to move back in with her parents at 32. Friends stopped calling because she had nothing to say. Every conversation felt like an interrogation. So what are you doing now? Nothing. I'm doing nothing. I'm broken. I'm done. That was the lowest point. The moment when Elena looked in the mirror and didn't recognize herself anymore. She wasn't the confident entrepreneur. She was just shattered. But it was in this moment, in the darkness of complete collapse, that something unexpected happened. Her mother, who had been quietly watching her daughter fall apart, sat down next to her one evening and showed her a small ceramic bowl. "This was my grandmother's," she said. The bowl was beautiful, but it was covered in golden cracks, thin, shimmering lines that ran across the entire surface like veins of light. "What happened to it?" Elena asked. Her mother smiled softly. "It broke, many years ago, and my grandmother repaired it using an old Japanese technique called Kintsugi. She said that the bowl was more precious after it broke because it had survived, because it had a story." Elena stared at the golden cracks. Something inside her shifted. What if I'm not ruined? What if I'm just being repaired? Elena couldn't stop thinking about that bowl. She started researching Kintsugi. She learned that in 15th century Japan, a shogun broke his favorite tea bowl and sent it to China for repair. It came back held together with ugly metal staples. Disappointed, he asked Japanese craftsmen to find a better way. They developed Kintsugi, the art of repairing with gold. But Kintsugi wasn't just about fixing things. It was a philosophy. It was rooted in Wabi-Sabi, the idea that imperfection is beautiful.
that things don't need to be flawless to be valuable, that cracks, wear, and age add character and depth. And then there was Mushin, a fearless mind, the courage to face reality without denial, without pretending the cracks don't exist. Elena realized something profound. She had been trying to hide her failure, to erase it, to pretend it never happened. But Kintsugi taught the opposite. Own the break. Display the cracks. Let them become part of your identity. She wrote in her journal that night, "I am not less because I broke. I am more because I survived." The next morning, she did something she hadn't done in 6 months. She got out of bed early. She made coffee. She sat down with a notebook and wrote at the top of the page, "What did I learn from losing everything?" The answers poured out. I learned which clients were worth keeping and which weren't. I learned that I relied too much on one partner and didn't build my own leadership. I learned that I was so focused on growth that I ignored quality. I learned that my identity was too tied to my business, and when it fell, I fell. But I also learned I can survive the worst. I learned who my real friends are. I learned that rock bottom is solid ground. You can build on it. For the first time since her business collapsed, Elena didn't feel like a victim. She felt like someone gathering pieces.
Elena decided to rebuild, but not the same way, not chasing the same metrics, not proving anything to anyone. She would rebuild according to Kintsugi principles. She would repair with gold. She started small. She reached out to one former client who had left on good terms. She was honest. "I made mistakes. I lost focus, but I learned from it. If you're willing, I'd like to work with you again. Just you, no big team, just me doing the work I love." The client said yes. One project. Then she reached out to another. Then another. But here's what was different. Elena didn't hide her failure. When potential clients asked about her gap in work, she told them the truth. "I had an agency. It failed. I lost everything. And that failure taught me more than success ever did. Now I work differently. Smaller, focused, personal. I know what matters." Some people were turned off by her honesty, but others, they respected it. They saw someone who owned her story, who didn't pretend, who had been broken and rebuilt herself with intention. Within 6 months, Elena had 5 clients. Not 20 employees, just her. No office lease, just a home setup. No pressure to scale, just great work. Her income wasn't 6 figures, but it was enough. And more importantly, she wasn't anxious anymore. She wasn't performing. She was present. She started a blog called Golden Seams, where she wrote about failure, rebuilding, and Kintsugi philosophy. She shared her story, every mistake, every moment she wanted to quit, every lesson. The response was overwhelming. People messaged her saying, "I thought I was the only one. Your story gave me permission to try again. I've been hiding my failure for years. Thank you for showing me I don't have to." Elena realized something. Her breakdown wasn't the end of her value. It was the source of it. 2 years after her collapse, Elena was invited to speak at a marketing conference, the same industry that had watched her fail. She almost said no. But then she remembered the bowl, the golden cracks. She said yes. She walked on stage and opened with this. 3 years ago, I lost everything. My business collapsed. My reputation was destroyed. I moved back in with my parents at 32. And I'm here today to tell you that it was the best thing that ever happened to me." The room went silent. She continued, "Because when you break, you have 2 choices. You can throw yourself away,
or you can repair yourself with gold. I chose gold. She talked about Kintsugi, about Wabi-Sabi, about embracing imperfection, about the freedom that comes from owning your story instead of hiding it. After the talk, dozens of people approached her. Entrepreneurs who had failed, executives who had been fired, creatives who had been rejected. All of them carrying shame, all of them hiding. Elena started coaching them, teaching them Kintsugi principles, helping them reframe their failures not as endings, but as the raw material for something greater. Her coaching practice grew. She wrote a book, Repaired with Gold: How to Rebuild Your Life After Everything Falls Apart. It became a bestseller, not because it promised easy success, but because it told the truth. Failure is part of the process. Brokenness is not permanent. And your cracks, when you own them, become your greatest strength. Elena now makes more than she did at her agency, but that's not what matters to her. What matters is that she's free. Free from the pressure to be perfect. Free from the shame of her past. Free to be exactly who she is. A person who broke, survived, and became more beautiful because of it.
Here's what Elena wants you to understand. Kintsugi is not about pretending the break didn't happen. It's not about toxic positivity or everything happens for a reason. It's about acknowledging reality. You broke. Something in your life shattered. Maybe it was your career. Maybe it was your relationship. Maybe it was your health, your reputation, your dream. And you have a choice. You can stay in pieces. You can hide the cracks. You can pretend you're fine when you're not. Or you can gather every single piece, no matter how small, and rebuild yourself intentionally with gold. Not hiding the cracks, but highlighting them, saying, yes, I broke, and look what I built from it. The people who transform their lives after failure are not the ones who pretend it never happened. They're the ones who integrate it into their identity, who say, this is part of my story, and it makes me stronger, wiser, more compassionate. Elena says this to everyone she coaches. Your value doesn't decrease because you broke. In Kintsugi, the repaired pottery is worth more than the original because it has survived, because it has a history, because it has gold in its cracks. So if you're watching this and you're in pieces right now, listen carefully. You are not finished. You are being prepared for your next chapter. Gather your pieces. Every mistake, every failure, every moment you thought you couldn't go on. And start rebuilding. Not to become who you were before, but to become who you were always meant to be. Stronger, wiser, more beautiful, with golden seams. If you've made it this far, thank you. Thank you for trusting me with your time. Tell me in the comments, what are you rebuilding? What part of your story are you ready to own? Remember, the cracks are where the light gets in. And the gold? That's your courage, your resilience, your refusal to stay broken. Be present. Walk with honor. Until the next video.